Porn in modern life has become as common as a gay sidekick character in a romantic comedy pumped out of Hollywood. It's become so mainstream, as a matter of fact, that people hardly even bat an eyelash. I mean, think about it. How crazy is it that if 20 years ago you wanted to indulge in seedy bottom feeder smut, you had to actually walk the gauntlet of shame that such behavior should require? In your grandfather's day, if a man wanted to possess pornography, he had to march down the shadowy corners of the subway underground in search of a makeshift shack run by a guy likely named Switchblade. And it's for this exact reason, availability, that the vast majority of people never saturated their lives with lewdness and character-destroying images. I want to be heard saying this very clearly. I am not a fan of censorship. I am a staunch believer in freedom. I would not attempt, nor would I support another's attempt, to control what people watch as mindful adults. Here, I'm simply making a case for ideas. This is an attempt at persuasion rather than the avocation of forced piety. Porn is like a poison, the results of which manifest slowly but with devastating destruction. Regardless of how rare one hears this today, sexuality was meant to be purposeful, specific, intimate, a sacred thing. Saying something like that today strikes the average person, specifically guys, as the only remaining verbal profanity left. To even mention the words sex and restraint in the same sentence, in the midst of today's pornography-drunk civilization, renders fire-breathing dragon-like responses. As a side note, you might notice that you get a very similar reaction if you mention removing the availability of drugs out of the eye line of an addict. Porn is like leprosy. It desensitizes the viewer to what healthy senses were meant to enjoy fully. It sacrifices healthy sexuality on the altar of substanceless secondhand sensuality. What happens to the human body if it indulges in every knee-jerk junk food urge? Most would say it's an unpleasant result. The lack of sexual discipline produces the same result internally. It's ironic because in modern society, all the sanctity that's meant for sexuality, we've just kind of hoisted that on diet. You have this consciousness, this social consciousness about the purity of what you put in your body, and what you put in your mind, what you view with your eyes. It's just laissez-faire. The offender is left with a hollow, shriveled innocence, a shattered self-worth, and ultimately, the inability to recognize real beauty and intimacy when it's right before their eyes. They spend a lifetime chasing the ghost of what a healthy relationship was meant to give the human spirit. And in the end, they settle for a junkie's fix on the street corner of a shallow lust. Young men today are immersed in a seemingly shoreless ocean of twisted sex, and in some cases form their entire sexual expectation from the imaginings of the most malicious minds. They then take these warped, misshapen notions of both sexuality and femininity straight to the blank canvas of their own novel sexual experience with young, innocent, and ill-prepared female participants. Where once youthful curiosity would round first base, today millions of young girls have their innocence slain as the result of the toxic porn pollution that is pumped, pipelined into the male psyche. At 14 years of age, sometimes earlier, modern men indulge in every sexual whim instantly, and then they wonder at 35 why they can't find contentment in a healthy, monogamous relationship. They've chosen to dump sexual sewage into their minds for decades, and now they wonder why the lush grass of domestic decency won't grow in that landfill that they've made by choice of their very own soul. It's at that later stage of life that a life spent with total disregard of character or self-discipline, it's at that time when the consequences come due. On your deathbed, when you've never known the lifetime spent with a loyal and faithful, real love, few are going to look back with a sense of pride and satisfaction on a life spent as a slave to Sodom-like sexual indulgence. Sexual sin, it's a unique human error, where most sins are like roadside bombs, spreading shrapnel in every direction, destroying everybody involved. Sexual sin can sometimes work like that too. Ultimately, when everything's said and done, you're the greatest victim. Because what you're doing is you're willingly locking yourself on a cage where the lock is on the inside. And that lock, it's made of inward ruin, an unsatisfying thirst that no amount of porn will ever quench. I fall short in this. Every man does, and if he says he doesn't, he's lying to you. Pursue self-discipline. Pursue character. Treat women with reverence. Treat sexuality with sanctity. This will yield a rich life in all the ways that matter. Thanks for listening.